All right, for all you ignoramuses out there who say NASCAR is just left turns, if you probably take a minute to tune in this week at Watkins Glen, you'll be very confused, disturbed, and proven wrong as they turn right at a road course at Watkins Glen. And there's one or two road course races, one or two road course courses that they go to every year. And to do this, we, for DraftKings purposes, we bring in Sean Engel, as always, 5-time tournament first-place finisher on DraftKings and NASCAR. And Sean, there's a lot of friendly price drivers this week, but if you're going to spend over $10,000, maybe it makes more sense to go with Kyle Busch at $10,100 over Kevin Harvick at $10,300.
Well, let's take a look at the stats and actually go through both of these drivers in order to actually show this. And I'm going to start with Kevin Harvick for all these purposes. Now, Kevin Harvick, yeah, he's more expensive than Kyle Busch that you can go with this week at the Glen, but I do think Harvick is pretty solid. And also, Harvick has historically done solid before at the Glen, and he nearly won this race last year. He's finished in the 12th position on average, and, I think Harvick might be a winning contender this week because of that. Now, as for Kyle Busch, he has been one of the more consistent drivers when it comes to Watkins Glen. Kyle has finished in the top 10 in all but 2 of his Watkins Glen starts, and he's even won twice within that span as well. So I think as far as picks go around this salary range, between the two of them, I do prefer Kyle Busch a little more due to his consistency, but you can't go wrong with either pick this week, I feel.
Well, you could also build a lineup, especially if you're doing multiple lineups with no $10,000 drivers. If you look at Dan Dobish's preview on RotoExperts.com right now, he just has one $10,000 driver there in Kyle Busch. But there are some good ones like right under that sort of that mark. A.J. Allmendinger is somebody you got to have on a road course, it seems, at $9,900, and then Tony Stewart at $9,100.
Yeah, well, every time NASCAR hits a road course, you can sure bet A.J. Allmendinger is going to be on the minds of fantasy owners this week as a top pick. With an average finish of 10th and 419 laps, ran in the top 15, you can bet on A.J. Allmendinger as a good pick to play this week, especially if he does well in practice. Now, Stewart, of course, is another driver that comes to mind when you think of road course racers, as he's one of the top ones. And I do think he should be put in lineups this week at the Glen because he has an average running position of 7th and has ran in the top 15 about 90% of the time that Stewart has raced at Watkins Glen. Both these stats are among the best in the series, and it shows exactly why Stewart's a fantastic pick this week.
What about Carl Edwards at $9,700 and the Penske teammates of Joey Logano at $9,500 and Brad Keselowski at $9,300? Are you considering spending on them more than, say, Stewart and Allmendinger?
Well, I mean, definitely you could think about that with both guys when you compare to the Allmendinger, because they're all cheaper than Allmendinger, actually. Carl Edwards is at $9,700, and he's never won at Watkins Glen, but when you look at his stats, it makes you wonder why he hasn't won a race already. Edwards has an average finish of about 8th since 2012 at the Glen, and one of the absolute best picks to start. And then you got the Penske teammates. Joey Logano, he's the defending race winner and has an average finish of about 4th within the last 2 Watkins Glen races. And because he's been running so well in the season, I do really like Logano this week. And Keselowski has 4 top 10 finishes in 6 starts and 370 laps ran in the top 15. I mean, Keselowski hasn't been overall as successful within the past 2 races as Logano has, but he's not a bad pick either as well.
So if I have to ask you to pick 2 drivers out of Allmendinger, Edwards, Logano, and Keselowski, and Tony Stewart, who do you pick? Give me just 2 out of those.
Well, I'm going to say out of this group, I'm going to go with Edwards and Stewart.
All right. Allmendinger, though, a strong consideration if you run multiple lineups out there. Some good good prices below 9,000 too. You got Martin Truex Jr. at 8,900. Jimmy Johnson's only 8,800, and then Jeff Gordon is 8,600.
Yep. Jimmy Johnson for that low of a salary? Well, while that may look appealing, Jimmy typically does not do as well on road courses as he does on other types of tracks, considering that he's never won the Glen, but he does have 8 top 10 finishes. But I do think of him as a bit of a tournament play this week because the last few weeks he's been a bit inconsistent. So that's what I think of Jimmy this week. Now, Jeff, of course, he's filling in for Dale Earnhardt Jr. as well, and he's one of the top sleeper picks automatically due to his past history, such as 4 wins and 262 laps led. But you may want to be mindful of his practice speeds, considering the past 2 races have been just okay with Jeff so far. And then, of course, you got Martin Truex Jr. He has 5 top 10 finishes in 5 of his starts, but his other 5 starts at the Glen, he's finished outside the top 10. But he ran well at Sonoma earlier this year, so I think he might be worth starting regardless of his mixed results. But watch practice times carefully with all these drivers before you make considerations of starting them this week.
All right, let's hit some of the bargain drivers here quickly. Give me one line on each of these guys. You got Austin Dillon at 7,200.
Austin Dillon, you should just flat out avoid. He has an average finish of 26 and 22% laps ran in the top 15. Not very good at all.
Clint Boyer's 7,800. He's got a good history at this track, but he's having a bad season.
Yeah, I do know. Well, Boyer, he is, having not that good of a season. But he might be worth taking a look this week because he has an average finish of 15th, and his salary's not too bad.
All right, Ryan Newman still seems to be a real nice bargain at 7,100.
Although this is just because mostly this week he's not a strong performer at the Glen. The Glen is not one of his best tracks. He has only 3 top 10s here, but his salary is low enough that you may want to use him, but just make sure he doesn't qualify too high.
This guy, whenever I bring up his name, it's like my stomach starts to rumble because I can never put him in my lineup. Casey Mears at 6,600.
Well, your stomach's not really going to rumble so much this week when you do end up using him and he actually produces results. He has 8 consecutive top 20 finishes at the Glen right now. And you know what? I like his low salary. I like his recent history. I think he's worth his value this week.
Chris Buescher won the rain-shortened race last week. I keep telling you about this guy, and he was only under $5 on NASCAR Fantasy Live last week. He's 6,500. Do I roll with Chris Buescher again?
Well, I say go for it. He won last week. He's got experience from racing road courses in the Xfinity Series. Even though this is his first start, I say you can definitely roll the dice with him this week, as long as he doesn't qualify too high and if he looks good enough in practice.
Yeah, because you want that pass differential. Real quick, Danica Patrick at 6,100.
Danica's never finished worse than 21st, so she's pretty cheap in salary this week. I think she might be decent.
All right, and then you got what we got called road course aces, guys who just race specifically at these tracks. What about Boris Said at 5,900 and Alex Kennedy's only 4,600?
These are basically 2 guys that you can use to fill out your lineup. Although I'm not confident in using Alex Kennedy because usually drivers with that low salary tend not to finish. But both guys have finished with a positive place differential in their last 3 races. So I would consider using both of them, though.
Sean, you always take a good look at the salaries, but you have been able to play fantasy NASCAR in New York for the last few months. But now the governor has signed a bill legalizing daily fantasy sports in New York. How much are you looking forward to getting to really play NASCAR again?
Well, I'm going to be excited to look forward to actually get my hands and think about these numbers more in depth this week and getting ready to play again. I'm going to get my thinking caps on.